into another edition of The Prescription. I'm here with Ant, and we're having another edition of street poetry here at his studio, One Stop Business Shop. And he's, of course, going to come with a poem. And then after that, we're going to have a few questions with Behind the Poet so we can learn more about Ant and what he's doing in the city. So you ready to go?
Let's go.
All right, let's go. Go ahead.
Even though he was emotionally broke and missed you as his blessing, or afforded you much pain, instead of needed affection, or he was mentally bankrupt and to you he could not pay attention, I still don't think it's fair to make me pay for somebody else's indiscretions. See, he did it, and I didn't. And there are a million things about us that just make us so different. So when you do weird things in the midst of this healthy relationship for unknown reasons, I will never get it. But you think I'm gonna let you dog me out for some other dude? You can forget it. Like snooping through stuff that I own. She went through my car, my pants, and even my cell phone. If I was to go off on her, they would say I was dead wrong. See, I've never given you any reason to think I was cheating. So please, leave my things alone. And granted, he may have stepped out on you once or twice. And he probably wasn't treating you right. And he might have put his hands on you if he argued and he drank that night. But why should I pay the price for some other dude that was trite? So there's no reason to turn this chance at happiness into a fight. And granted, you should fight for love. But not in that sense. Because no good man was to stick around and deal with your nonsense. Like he calling myself and asking me, where you at and who are you with? When I just left the house, I told you I was going to the gym and some sneakers and a basketball fit. Or we have a disagreement, but you want to yell and scream. Oh, I'm talking to you calmly, but you want to make a scene. See, the first step in healthy communication, it begins with your listening. Plus, no man is a fan of petty arguing. She's telling me all sorts of things I really don't want to hear. Like I done been through so much with men, and she doesn't know why she's here. Or my favorite, I'm just protecting my heart. So she's living her love life in fear. So a relationship between her and I just doesn't seem fair. So I'm kind of like, bad lady, you gonna miss your bus, dragging all those bags like that. And I guess no man has ever told you this is not appealing for you to emotionally hold back. And yes, you've been hurt. That's a more than obvious fact. You're carrying way too much emotional baggage, and all these bags that are overpacked. It's getting asinine when you approach a woman with respect, and all you think you have is your back and mind. And granted, you are attractive. But I want to know about your past and your mind, and if we could possibly get together, the past some time. I noticed you got a lot of luggage on your back. And we only going on one date, so how many bags did you pack? And could you put some of that down so we can relax? I mean, it's really hard to talk to you with you looking all goofy and slumped over like that. And I think you can hear me better if you turn down your defense. And those emotional wounds will heal better if at the scabs you didn't always pick. And though we're all men, you should be able to see our differences, but when you stereotype all men into one group, well, it's as wrong as you can get. Now, I know through time that you have grown weary of men. And I'm not telling you that you should grow leery of them, but once a relationship is over, then let that be the end, and don't carry the anger of one until this one can begin, because a fair chance is a fair chance. So whether we're playing chess cards or the game of romance, see, if we're playing the game of life and I have to pay for his past, then how long do you think this game here is going to last? Ladies, take time to grieve. Because a big part of your issue is your grievance period is too brief, and just like the aftermath of a foot race, you find it hard to breathe, and it takes you a little while to calm yourself and finally feel relief. Apply that here. Just relax for a second. Chill out and do you. And if a real man meets you during your rest period, he'll be patient to allow you time for what you've been through. And if he doesn't, that means his interest probably wasn't in you, but more so in those physical things that you two possibly could do. Now, it's not all about men, ladies, I have to say. That you can't punish yourself for the rest of your days, and though he may have done you wrong and left you in the days, you owe it to yourself. You'll never make yourself pay, because you fall into the trap of self-pity or low self-esteem. But the reality is, baby girl, you always were a queen. So why are you chasing peasants when you deserve a king? See, for one day you'll be the right man's heavenly beings. So just trust me, because I've never given you doubt. Just talk to me. Because that's what healthy communication is all about. Look at me as if I'm the only man that can make you smile when you feel like you want to pout. Because I promise, because God sent me to help you out. So even though he was emotionally broke, I miss you as his blessing, or he afforded you much pain, instead of needed affection, or he was mentally bankrupt. To you, he could not pay attention. I still don't think it's fair to make us pay for somebody else's indiscretions. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you. I wanted to snap, but I can't, I don't want that on camera. I don't want that on camera. So the first thing I want to ask is, what place were you in when you wrote that particular, how long ago, like what?
Yeah, so this poem was actually written about one particular situation I was dealing with back in the day. And this young lady, beautiful young lady, well-spoken, came from a good family, but was so hard to deal with because of what everything she'd been through, and I could understand it to an extent, but she almost treated me like she treated her ex, and it hurt. I'm like, man, whoa, like, never done any of those things, like, chill out. And so, yeah, it was written out of that space.
And one of the things I've noticed, I've heard you perform a few times at Jazzy's, and one of the things I notice a lot, you come from an emotional place. I mean, even Tuesday, I seen you perform last Tuesday, and you did the one for the young black kids. But when you tap into that emotional place when you're writing, what makes you, because I know a lot of your poems tend to be towards women and helping women heal. What kind of guides your poetry in that direction?
Actually, most of my poetry is just healing in general, and storytelling. I like telling a story and walking people through it. Because it's one thing to use fancy words and be eloquent and he's intelligent, he knows big words, but it's another thing to use your words to help a person feel the emotions and the things that you went through or experienced directly. That's what I try to do. Like a lot of my poems are trying to engulf a person into what they were experiencing. Sometimes the experiences aren't even mine. They're from conversations I've had with friends, they're through third party, things of that nature. So yeah.
And I love that musical style, like because I know how sometimes when you're in the middle of your poem, or sometimes at the beginning or the end, you'll just throw in, that little melodic. How you develop that into your poetic style?
It's always been a part of who I was. I love to sing. The funniest thing about it was I loved to sing ever since I was young, but I stopped singing for years because of being picked on and things of that nature. So I stopped singing for years, just doubted my gift, doubted what God had given me. And when I write most of my poetry, there's always some form of singing aspect in it. And it took me a while to become comfortable with performing it, or even being comfortable singing in front of people. But yeah, I had to tap into it because it's something I love.
Well, keep singing, because there's nothing wrong with your voice. It's beautiful. It's definitely beautiful. So I want to kind of ask you, about some of the things you do in the city. I know you work with the Ritz, and every third Sunday you have the poetry at the playground, the art of poetry. So what made you start that at the Ritz?
The Ritz, most people don't know, is it's an extremely historic building for African Americans, man. It has history dated back to the Chitlin Circuit. A lot of people don't know about that, man. It's where black performers from the Renaissance would come and perform, and this was the first stop in the Chitlin Circuit. And so the Ritz was a part of that. That stage in there was a part of history, and I want to tap into that history. So often we forget, or we misplace, or we belittle, or for a while the artist community had walked away from the building, and now they have new management, and there's a new feeling, new vibe there. So I want to re-engage the artist community back where it belongs. You know what I mean? Where it all started. And so that's my goal, my vision. Yeah.
I definitely like that. And when I found that out, I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, I didn't know. I mean, I knew about the Chitlin Circuit. I did not know the Ritz was the actual first stop. So I applaud you for actually trying to help be a part of the revitalization of the Ritz Theater. And so I know you got some projects coming up, one of which you're bringing back Verbal Essence. So tell people who don't know what Verbal Essence is, tell them what Verbal Essence is. And
yeah, I do too much. But Verbal Essence was a in-person open mic event. It happened in the historic part of Springfield here in Jacksonville, and it was every Monday from 7 until kind of. And it was open. It was family friendly. There's no cussing, no sexual content. And people would come in, they would perform, and I would just kind of allow people to get free, for youth poets to come in. There was a safe space. I created Verbal Essence because there were no spaces I was a single father at the time, and there were no spaces for me to bring my son where I would feel comfortable with the content he would hear. Poetry is a beautiful thing, but if you it can go left or right. It can get real derogatory, real sexual, raunchy, or it can be beautiful and uplifting and empowering. And I wanted my child to be a part of it, but I wanted to control kind of the narrative, that he was healing, so he wouldn't think of poetry as a sexual entity, as but he would see it more as something that heals and uplifts. And that's why I created Verbal Essence, and it rocked out for 8 years. Yeah, it was one of the biggest events in the city, and I stopped it because I had some changes in my life. I had to step back away from it, but I'm reintroducing it. The pandemic hit things up, all sorts of stuff. So I started during the pandemic. I started Verbal Lessons breakouts, which were small concerts that we recorded right here in my studio, and it was amazing. Like, it was amazing, man. Like, and so, did 2 seasons of that. Now I'm gonna bring back a 3rd season, which is gonna be a little bit different, and we're going to bring in 1 instrument. And there are going to be 3 artists that will perform with that 1 instrument. So the first one will be like violin, and boom, performance with the violin, tuba, or cello, or whatever, just 1 instrument. So I want live instrumentation alongside using the singing, our musical instrument, or singing, or whatever, whether it be poetry, whatever it may be, or even dancing. So we'll figure it out. I like it.
I like that, like having that 1 instrument and having everybody show their creative expression through that 1 instrument. So it's gonna always give up 3 different feels, right, for however many. I just love that idea. When you was talking about that earlier, I was like, that is just so crazy. I would have never thought of that, but I just think that's so cool. So now, to kind of ask you a question, how did you start writing poetry and then performing poetry?
Oh, my grandmother is a writer, historian, diva, and I started writing to heal. I was in this program called Liberty Partnership Program. I remember back in Rochester, New York, and they encouraged us to write. They encouraged us to express ourselves, and that's where I started writing poetry. Now, performing it didn't happen until I was in California. There's some poetry spots out there, and I was just some novice, just trying to express myself, and I wasn't very good. Didn't know how to engage a crowd. Didn't understand the ebbs and flows of poetry, but I enjoyed it. And so when I moved to Jacksonville, I found some places where they did it through Nocturnal Escape, and I just fell in love with it. And that's why I started doing
it. Okay. And you're originally from where?
Rochester, New York.
So being a Northerner, I'm a Northerner too. So
yeah.
Would you go back?
No.
Straight up no.
No, well, it's not because of, I miss 4 seasons. I miss having 4 seasons. Because I think it makes a person better. It makes you prepare. You have to prepare constantly. And I think that a sense of, there's 2 seasons in Jacksonville. There's hot, and then there's January. And then that's it. That's all you get. Okay? But yeah, so, and I feel like you can get too comfortable. But if you're constantly having to prepare, because guess what? You don't prepare for winter. The first week of winter, gonna kick you behind. Like, oh, let me get my life together. And so you have to, get your hustle and bustle on. But I think 4 seasons just makes people better. But I wouldn't move back simply because the element I left still exists there. I grew up in a really hard, side of the city. People still, and granted, I don't have to live there, but I want my kids to have an opportunity to see something different than I did.
Definitely. But with that, I mean, in Jacksonville, it's such a big city, but a lot of people from around the country are moving here, and there's a lot of parts of town are starting to change to how it was, at the places we've come from. So, what kind of would you give advice for people, moving forward with trying to keep Jacksonville as it was, like the city that you want to raise your kids in it?
Well, I feel there's no place that's safe. It's just an element that's sweeping over any metropolitan area. No place is safe. There's no area you can move and be like, oh, this is the safest city in the world. It'll be that way for 1 year. The next year it'll be at the bottom of the totem pole. They say be the change that you want to see in the world, right? I feel if more people walked hand in hand with that element, we'd be fine, you know. But people like to talk a big game but not walk it. So,
That's true.
yeah.
I wish more people would hush and walk instead of talk.
Touche.
But to go ahead and wrap it up, I do want to highlight, like I say, this is his studio. He has a business called One Stop Business Shop. He does a lot. I mean, printing, video. He does consulting. Yeah, it's literally a one-stop shop. So kind of give them a little headway about that, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And you can give them where they can reach out to you so they can get your information, because we definitely want to make sure people can find you.
All right, fantastic. So for me personally, you can find me at Ahynte, Ahynte. It stands for All Have Yearnings None Truer Than Enlightenment. And reach out to me. Holler at your boy. You know, me personally, if you want to do some collabs, if you want to get on Verbal Essence. And for my business, One Stop Business Shop, you can find that on all social media platforms, all over the interwebs. We do everything from, well, the slogan is anything business. So anything your business needs, if you need somebody to consult with, you need a business manager, you need somebody, you know, you find a CPA, you need logo, web design, anything business. You need indoor, outdoor signage, banners, if you need shirts produced, anything business. So that's what we do. And we're out here for you. Other than that, yeah, man, I try to keep it low key. Well, I do a lot of stuff. So I do a spiritual breakfast. It's a devotional I've been hosting for every morning for 10 years, 8 a.m., where I just give you know, some spiritual guidance, whatnot, and just a lot. I do a lot. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you do a lot, and we want you to keep doing more for the city and keep putting on. Definitely, it's just because you're helping uplift and bring a lot of positivity and creativity back to Jackson, and highlighting it as well.
Yeah.
So definitely appreciate that. And I would say too, guys, Verbal Essence, you can find it on Facebook Watch. Definitely look at some. I mean, the concert series that he shot here they're amazing. And also, he, like I say, he does in-house video. He does editing too. So for those creators who need a spot or who need video,
podcasting,
all of that podcasting,
we do everything here.
Definitely hit and up. Definitely hit and up. And I want to say thank you for having me in your studio, for doing this interview, for giving us a beautiful, beautiful poem. And as I always say, love and light. And you guys have a wonderful day.